Shabbat Shalom. The week after Shavuot feels quiet, and we are beginning to slide into summer to mark graduations. And just a moment ago, it seems we stood at the foot of the mountain to receive the Torah. The Torah describes this moment of revelation as an experience of synesthesia, a confusion of the senses. The Torah says that the people saw the sounds. And I was thinking that perhaps our Tikkun Leil Shavuot, when we stayed up all night and studied the words of Torah together, eating cheesecake and talking and davening at dawn, might have been mimicking of this kind of experience. And as the smoke clears from that high, we continue to hear those echoes of revelation. And we read Parashat Naso. In this week's Torah portion, we encounter one of the most beloved and ancient pieces of our liturgy, sandwiched in between the laws concerning the Nazirite who has committed to a certain asceticism and the continuing story of the Mishkan and our ancient desert tabernacle. Looking at the open Torah scroll when Adam was chanting these verses, anyone who was privileged to be standing nearby could have seen these words sort of leap off the page. This is not ordinary biblical prose. It is a poem, a blessing, an echo of revelation. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yihuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Birkat Kohanim, the priestly blessing, is among our most ancient of blessings. In the ancient temple, it is believed the Kohanim blessed the people with this formula daily. And in fact, in 1979, archaeologists in Jerusalem, right, Eric, discovered I'm always looking to him to confirm it, 2 small silver scrolls dated to the late 7th or early 6th century BCE, inscribed with a text nearly identical to the priestly blessing. So these are the oldest biblical texts ever found, and they likely served as protective amulets for people some 2,600 years ago. And we still say these ancient words today in the repetition of the Amidah, which Gabby so beautifully chanted earlier this morning. And sometimes in our shul and in other shuls, the Kohanim reenact this ancient temple ritual during Musaf on holidays and festivals. And of course, for hundreds of years, Jewish parents have blessed their children with these words at the Shabbat table. So, what does it mean to bless one another? What could it mean to hear the echoes of our ancestors in these words? David White, who writes about the underlying meaning of everyday words, explores the word echo. He writes, "Echo tells us that whatever we give out to the world will be returned to us in ways that we only half recognize. What looks like self-repetition is actually a deepening and gradual revelation. Echo is the sense and the deep unconscious relief that we will eventually, if we listen closely to far-off things, be answered." Well, Birkat Kohanim is actually 3 separate blessings that are linked in this kind of a prayer poem. The literary structure, if you look at it closely, and we're going to take a few minutes to do that today, is very elegant and what the Bible scholar Jacob Milgram calls a rising crescendo. There are 3 words in the first line, 5 in the second, and 7 in the third. There are 15 consonants in the first line, 20 in the second, and 25 in the third. The sense is of increasing, overflowing divine blessing. Some commentators see the arc moving from our material needs to spiritual ones and culminating in our ultimate need, our ultimate desire, which is, of course, for peace. So it's a kind of a spiritual Maslow's hierarchy. But let's take a look at each one of these very packed and meaningful lines. Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and protect you. Our commentator Sforno connects these lines to a teaching in Pirkei Avot, Ein kemach, ein Torah. Where there's no bread, there's no Torah. We cannot be truly blessed until our basic needs are met. And the second half of the line, v'yishmerecha, and guard you, Hamek Devar teaches that every blessing requires protection lest it become an obstacle. So, for example, a Torah scholar needs protection from pride. A person of means needs protection both from, of course, people stealing from her or him, but also needs protection from the corruption that wealth can bring. Whatever is precious must be guarded. Now let's look at the second line. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yehuneka. May God shine God's face upon you and be gracious to you. The word ya'er means to shine, and Rashi reads this as a kind of a smiling face, a beaming countenance. But Sforno goes further. He says that this is the gift of awareness. The light that we receive is the light to see and appreciate all that God does. In this reading, the blessing is not a material gift at all, but a kind of a spiritual capacity. The humility that recognizes that everything we have is unearned grace. And the third line, Yisa Adonai panav elecha, v'yasem lecha shalom. May God lift up the divine face to you and grant you peace. Well, Sforno connects this to Psalm 36, one of my favorite, at least this line is one of my favorite lines in a psalm. Ki imcha makor chaim be'orcha nirei or. For with you is the fountain of life. In your light we see light. If we are open to it, we can see traces of that primordial divine light in our everyday lives. And it's our task as human beings to keep being awed by these traces, these echoes, however faint they are. The Netziv, Rabbi Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, notes that although this blessing, the blessing as a whole, Birkat Kohanim, is recited over the whole people, as it was, in fact, this morning in our congregation, it's stated in the second person singular, meaning that each person receives the blessing specific to them, the blessing that each of us needs. He says, so for one engaged in Torah, blessings for their study. For one engaged in trade, blessings for success in business, so that each of us can hear in it what we need. We could take this further. Divine blessing is not generic, but it's particular, specific to each individual. God sees us and cherishes us as individuals. So the Torah specifies that this is a blessing for priests to give to the people. Yet today, we are all empowered to extend this ancient blessing to each other. So yes, parents give it to their children at the Shabbos table, but it's also something that we can do for each other. And that Gabby, for example, did it this morning when she led our service. A Christian friend once said that one of her favorite things about Jewish tradition is how we always say when we've lost someone, may his or her memory be a blessing. When we say that, we hear the echo of those we love in our lives, even when we've lost them. And yet, even with the power to give this blessing, we have to guard against grandiosity. Shai Held, in his commentary on this parsha, reminds us that we're channels of blessing, not the source. The priests, by extension, and we, by extension, are conduits of blessing. So these words are not magical, and we are not magicians when we say them. And that's why a formula is specified, and why the Torah tells us, V'samu et shmei al b'nei Yisrael ve'ani avarchem. Thus they shall link my name, says God, with the people of Israel, and I will bless them. God will bless through the words of Birkat Kohanim. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks wrote about these words. We are what we pray for. If you seek to understand people, look at its prayers. The Jewish people did not ask for wealth or power or hunger after empire. They asked for protection, the right to live true to themselves without fear, for grace, the ability to be an agent for good, and peace, that fullness of being in which each of us brings our gifts for the common good. That's what our ancestors prayed for, and that is still all that we need. Birkat Kohanim, Birkat Hamazon, our blessing after the meal, the Amidah, the Kaddish, all of our central prayers end the same way, a blessing for peace. Peace is our greatest hope and our greatest aspiration, and we will never stop praying for it, or working to create a more peaceful world for everyone who lives on earth. On a personal note, Birkat Kohanim inspires a fair amount of nostalgia for me as Talia, our youngest daughter, prepares to leave for college. When we bless our children or each other, we can hear the echo of our ancestors' hopes and dreams in these ancient words. And I wonder, as my children begin their new lives away from home, will they hear the echoes of my voice blessing them at the Shabbos table all these many Friday nights? David White says, repetition through echo also reflects our need to admit things we could not admit the very first time we heard them. We need to hear them and say them again and again and again. May we merit to listen, to hear, and to see the echoes of our tradition and allow them to protect us, to suffuse our lives with that ancient light that is daily renewed, and to guide our steps, please God, towards peace. Shabbat Shalom.